Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today, back at Bristol University, 14 years on from graduating, to talk to you a little bit about my career so far. I'm going to spend the next 15-20 minutes or so running through what I've done since I graduated. I'm also going to cover off a little bit about why I decided to work in PR and marketing. Some very top-line stuff on exactly what PR is in particular. Different areas you can work within the PR sector, typical roles and job titles that you can look out for. And then I'm also going to touch on working for startups, because I worked for a startup for 2 years quite recently, and that's a different sort of place to work, so I thought it'd be quite interesting for you guys to hear about that. And finally at the end I'll give you just a few tips about getting into marketing and PR. So my talk is a bit more focused on PR than marketing in general, because I'm a kind of corporate PR guy. That's my background. But the marketing mix is pretty broad. PR kind of is often a big part of marketing strategy. So I kind of have a lot of background in marketing as well, so I can kind of speak to that. How did I get to where I am now? Just running. This is kind of a potted history of my career so far. I'm currently a senior consultant at a place called Greenhouse PR here in Bristol. I joined there about 6 months ago. I'll come on to talk a little bit more about what I do at Greenhouse PR. Before that, I was head of PR at a startup in London called Packed Coffee, and I will also talk a little bit about that and the 2 years that I spent there in a small, fast-growth startup in London. Before that, I spent 3 years at Edelman, which is the biggest independent PR agency in the world. There's about 500 people in the London office and thousands worldwide. And I was in their corporate PR team there. Before that, I took a 8-month career break, sort of another gap year, as it were, which I strongly recommend if you've been working hard, as I had been for many years, and went traveling around the world then. Before that, I was a senior account manager at an agency called Euro RCG Bis Lancaster in London. And I spent the beginning of my career at a big agency called Freud Communications, 2 years in their New York office. And my first job was at their London office. And before that, I had a little bit of work experience, and I graduated in geography in 2003, just down the road. It's probably useful to talk about how I made the decision to go into Freud's at the beginning, and I'd be totally honest, it was just kind of coincidence where I ended up. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated in geography. I looked around at various things. I'd done some brand ambassador sort of marketing jobs on campus, and I quite liked that, and so I thought I'll go into marketing and give that a try. And I looked at different areas of marketing. I looked at advertising a little bit. And then I found out about PR. I had no idea what it was really, actually, but I went to a presentation by the industry body, which is called the PRCA, and it sounded really interesting. So I thought I'll give it a try. And what I did was I also asked around. I sort of networked, and I found a contact who was an MD at Freud's, and there was a personal connection, and she got me in for an interview. And I think my work experience really helped, and I'll come on to kind of work experience is obviously important, but Cohn & Wolfe is another big agency. I was only there for 2 weeks, but having that on my CV really helped me get that first foot in the door to Freud's. And also just at that point, you're just going off your interests really. You've got a good degree from a good university, but you're also going off your enthusiasm and interest in the area. I'll just touch on what I do now, which I'm pretty excited about, because I've kind of specialised at this point, and Greenhouse PR is an agency here in Bristol, as I say, that uses the power of communications to accelerate change towards resilient and sustainable future. So what we do is we're a specialist PR agency that simply work for clients that we believe are moving society in the right direction in terms of the environment and societal impacts. So our clients are all pioneers, entrepreneurs, campaigners, businesses who have the vision and ideas to deliver change. We do things like energy sector, finance, food, health, well-being, community. It's really interesting stuff, and it's quite sort of purpose-driven, which I really like. we've kind of all chosen, the team there has all chosen to specifically spend our time working with clients who create change, and we quite like that. So this is kind of a grouping of our clients, and you'll see lots of names you won't recognise there. You might recognise the likes of sort of Good Energy. We also work for Triodos Bank. They're not on there, but they're a really fantastic organisation that I recommend you look into if you don't know them already. They're Bristol based. They're a sustainable bank. They just put your savings and your money into projects and organisations that are delivering positive change. So renewable energy, housing projects, social care projects, things like that. And they're quickly growing. They're going to launch a current account this summer, previously having offered just saving products like ISAs and things like that. So Triodos is a big one for me. So how did I decide to work in PR? I kind of mentioned it was a bit of a coincidence and that marketing background, but I was definitely interested in different areas of the marketing mix. I don't know how many of you guys know what I mean by the marketing mix, but basically there are different areas of marketing like advertising, like PR, like stunts, direct marketing, online digital PR, digital marketing, sorry. And I particularly was looking at PR, but you might be interested in other areas. And an interesting way of thinking about it is, say you're the marketing director of Coke and you've got £1 million to spend on marketing. How are you going to spend that? And that's your marketing mix. You can do anything really. And so you'll find yourself thinking about all those different areas of marketing. I was particularly interested in PR. I kind of knew because I liked reading the newspapers. I like following news and issues. I enjoy meeting new people, learning new things. I'm naturally inquisitive. I'm also really interested in going to events, talks. I follow brands and consumer trends. And I wanted to work with other people who I kind of saw as chatty and fun and sociable. And that really is something about people who work in PR. They tend to be all quite like that. It's also not the biggest paycheck. I kind of knew I didn't want to go into banking or be a lawyer. A lot of my friends did and have made a lot more money than me, but it looks really boring to me. So I would say if you're starting out in PR, my first job at Freud Communications, this was 2003, but the paycheck was abysmal. It was 15 grand or something. And I think they just had a talk on publishing, and maybe publishing, I think you kind of earn less when you start out on, even more so. But you can make a lot of money in the end in PR, but I'd say most people aren't really in it for that reason, like maybe in banking and things like that. So all good signs, I would say. So what is PR anyway? I think it's often very misunderstood and misrepresented. A lot of people think it's schmoozing and celebrities and not doing much work, and a lot of my friends kind of think that I do that, but it is also a very serious industry. I think the latest reports were saying it's about an £85 billion industry in the UK. There are over 80,000 people that work in PR, which interestingly actually is more than the number of people that work in journalism. And considering what a lot of PRs do is pitch to journalists, journalists are often complaining that there are more PR people than journalists and it makes their life really difficult. I would say PR is basically managing the flow of information between companies, individuals, and the general public. There are lots and lots of different definitions of what PR is. Some of you guys might have studied it within your courses or read about it, but that's how I define it. I see that as a really important job, to be honest, because if you're a big company or you're a famous individual, a lot of people want to talk to you. You've got to decide who you're going to talk to and when. And it's all about reputation. It's about reputation for your brand or your company or you as an individual, and it's about trust as well. It's about building trust. So we often say at its most basic, it's about telling a story. If you do PR really well, what you normally do is tell stories very well. But the basics, the sort of nuts and bolts of PR, are things like press releases, setting up interviews with the media, issuing statements, setting up photographies, briefings, press conferences, events, stunts. Any way of in the old days it was any way of getting into the newspaper. Now it's become a lot more complex because of the digital landscape. I wanted to talk about PR agencies quickly and the different areas of PR. This is a bit difficult, but you've got, these are kind of the areas, say, within a big agency like Edelman that you might find. You have consumer PR, corporate PR, healthcare PR, which is kind of pharma companies. Consumer PR would tend to be products, kind of product-focused, selling, that sort of thing. Corporate by corporate I mean business, basically, doing PR for businesses. And technology is obviously technology companies. Digital is pretty broad. Sometimes you can look at this, like the different areas of PR, like you look at a newspaper, the different sections of a newspaper. So you have in consumer PR, you'd probably be pitching into the first section, the kind of news section of the newspaper. In corporate PR, we tend to be pitching into the business sections. So if you pick up the Sunday Times and you chuck away the business section straight away, then you probably don't want to work in corporate PR. That's kind of how I look at it. Healthcare, you probably need to be interested in healthcare. I mean, all of these, you can specialize into all these different areas. I've specialized now and specialized into the green sector. But you can also find PR agencies that do food and drink, that do computer games, that do financial, like issuing financial statements and things like that. So you can kind of specialize in any area in PR. When I started at Freud Communications, I was in the corporate PR team. But Freud was famous for its kind of celeb stuff that they did and a lot of consumer PR. So this photo is actually from Live 8 in 2005. Some of you guys were probably tiny then, but that's me in the middle there, and that's thousands of people behind us. And I was working backstage, managing the media and the press and the photographers. So agency life can be really fun in that sense, especially if you're somewhere like Freud Communications that I was, where they were often doing really big events and managing the media for red carpet premieres, the BAFTAs, things like that. So I was trying to, I have a photo somewhere of me holding an umbrella for Uma Thurman on a red carpet, and you can just see my hand. And the hand made it into the front page of the Times, but I didn't. So typical roles, I wanted to talk about some of the roles you might see when you, or you could look out for if you wanted to find someone that works in PR. And I've divided it between the consultancy agency world and the in-house world. And in case you don't kind of understand about that, I suppose by in-house, I mean any company of a certain size has a press department, has a PR communications department, and they will have people at all levels. So they will have press officers, PR managers, head of media, director of communications, those sort of roles. And in the agency world, there tends to be a sort of a hierarchy of sort of intern account assistant level, which is the kind of joiner level. And then you get account executive level, and you get account manager, senior account manager, account director, and that's the levels you go up to. Some places talk about consultants, senior consultants, that sort of thing. I've said at the bottom here, it's worth considering the pros and cons of in-house jobs versus agency jobs. You will find, if you go and look for a job now, that there will be more agency jobs than in-house jobs advertised. That's not necessarily because a lot more people work in agencies in-house, although I'm not totally sure. In-house departments can be huge. The BBC, for example, had I think a team of about 180 at one point working in their PR department. And consultancies, though, there are just hundreds and hundreds of consultancies. If you want to know about some of the big consultancies, you should go to PR Week and look at kind of the list of the top PR agencies. Some of the big names out there, as well as Edelman and Freud that I worked at, are places like Weber Shandwick and Blue Rubicon and Finsbury, and these are all pretty substantial agencies that will be taking quite a lot of grads on each year, and some of them have specific grad courses that you could go for. So I've said, try and sell something you like. This picture is actually where I used to work, Packed Coffee. I love coffee. It was quite fun to work selling coffee every day. If you have to sell like tyres or something and you're not really passionate about tyres, it can be quite tough. Now you can't always make this choice. In agency, what you have is many different clients and you're juggling between those, which is one of the fun things about agencies. In-house, you get to focus on on one particular brand. So when I came back from traveling a few years ago, I wanted an in-house role and I wanted to work in something that I was passionate about. And when I found out about Pact Coffee, then I was kind of interested because I could sell coffee every day. And Pact, just quickly, is a e-commerce startup. They're a website. You create an account with them and they send you freshly roasted coffee through the post. And they've been very successful because coffee has had this huge thing the last few years. And a lot of people have really been interested in receiving their coffee freshly roasted through their letterbox. And so it's a multi-million pound business, and I was their head of PR. And what was it like working in startups? There was about 30, 40 of us there. I'm not sure if you can see it. That's our office in the background, which was kind of Time Out's best office in London. It had a slide and a hammock and dog and all this kind of stuff, so startups wasn't really a thing when I graduated. I kind of remember going to the career fairs and it felt like there were only 30 or 40 companies in the whole country you could work for. And I kind of wish now, looking back to then, that I'd realised how many different jobs there were out there, because there are many, many different areas that you can work in. And startups is one of those. They've done really well recently. And they, even in kind of Bristol, there's a really strong startup scene out of places like the Engine Shed down by Temple Meads. And I put the pros and cons of working in startups, because it's often seen as a very rosy, kind of exciting, fun place to be. Like I say, the offices are often very cool. They have big injections of cash to throw around. So they often have, like we had a beer fridge, free beer all the time and all this kind of stuff. And it's lots of fun. The people there tend to be very ambitious and hardworking, and it's fast-moving and agile. They often talk about startups being agile and very data-driven, which is so important in this day and age. But the cons would be in the world of startups is that some of their business models are very insecure. Places like Uber or Just Eat, which is in Bristol, or Deliveroo, those sort of companies. They seem like very steady companies, but some of them are really on quite dodgy business models where the money can suddenly disappear. And so job security is not as good as if you are going into a big company like the BBC or a big agency like Edelman. There is sometimes a lack of HR or process within startups because they're very quick moving and they don't have those systems set up. They sometimes offer you payment in equity, which is also a little bit risky from your point of view, because you never quite know if you'll get that equity back. It all depends on whether the startup is bought one day for millions of pounds and you have that tiny share in it, which can be quite exciting, but it's not going to pay the bills the bills each month. And then data-driven is also a bit of a danger in the world of PR and marketing. It means it's very, very highly measured. And measurement is one of the big hot topics particularly in PR, which is about building brands, but then you don't necessarily sell a product directly from building a brand. It's very hard to measure that acquisition point. They talk about acquisition a lot in startups. But if you are interested in startups, there's a couple of websites I put down there, workinstartups.com and one called Escape the City. So I think I'm almost done, but this is also about startups. They're very famous for stunts, and Transferwise is a hugely successful startup. It's what's called a unicorn. So it's gone to a £1 billion or dollar maybe valuation now, and they do transfers of money, different currencies between different countries. And they just the whole company just got naked and walked around the city of London. The message there was because they wanted banks to reveal their fees that they were charging people. So, that's a little insight into life maybe in a startup. So I'll finish up here. A few tips. Networking is so important in PR. I mean, if you're going to work in PR, you're going to need to be fairly confident anyway at networking. So that's being able to walk into a room and talk to people or chat to people at a dinner party. That's kind of a good sign. And use contacts. I mean, that's really a way in. That's how I got my first job. Work experience is very important, like I said. And there are various internship offerings, so you can proactively get in touch with people and ask them if they've got any internship or work experience opportunities. They won't always be advertised, so you just need to get in touch. You can read things like PR Week, blogs, look at award listings. I mentioned the PRCA is the industry body. I've said tweet. We use Twitter a lot because journalists are on Twitter and we follow journalists pretty closely, but it's also just a way of being in touch with everything that's going on. I'd also say pick up a newspaper and make sure to, well, you don't necessarily have to buy the newspaper because I know a lot of people don't, but follow the news closely. The last point, it might feel like a bit of a throwaway point, but I think it is important for you guys to remember. It's not one career for life. I know at this point it can be really difficult to know what you're going to do next when you graduate, but I would say it can move you in many different ways, and so you don't have to feel completely stuck in this one area. And then it's a bit of an add-on really, but when you're doing interviews, I would really make sure to read the website of the company. It's very obvious, but if you're going to meet them, they want you to really have researched them and know their clients, who they work with, what they do. So learn about their business, show that you have a passion for the news and changes in the media landscape and the digitization of media and the way that newspapers are closing and the way people are consuming news through Snapchat or Facebook. Stuff like that is a really good sign that you are going to be interested in working in PR. So that's me really. These are just kind of some of the things that are going on in the sector at the moment. Trust, news, social media, who are the influencers, stuff like that. So I think we're having some questions at the end, but thanks anyway.